Okay. So Vince Lombardi said, football is like life. What else would he say? Right? Football is like life. It requires perseverance, self denial, hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and respect for authority. So, I mean, that's an old fashioned idea, but it's a common sense idea. I take a little bit I differ slightly in some of the terms, but what he's really talking about is this ability to fold ourselves into a team, right? That's to fold ourselves into something larger than our individual self. And so here, and I just want to break it down a little bit because I think it's a very interesting quote because it has these. So perseverance is the first thing it says. So life requires perseverance, and this is, I think, this is such an important point that what we do is we go on, we keep going on, we keep getting up, we keep moving, into our daily lives, regardless of the difficulties that we have previously experienced. And of course, I mean, I can remember a time when we had the telephone company, and I had a person working for me that's that said she was depressed. And at that time, I thought that depression was just an excuse to stay in bed. I mean, that was actually my thinking because I had never had that kind of experience. And then some years later, when we lost the business and lost everything financially, and I thought I had lost my dream, I experienced depression. And pretty much what I wanted to do was stay in bed. And I understood what was going on. So there is that, right? And this is what I found out though, that the more I gave in to the staying in bed, the easier it was to stay in bed. And so, I eventually I got somebody to help me, but I found that if I now I know it can get so bad that you actually can't get out of bed or can't get out of where you can't get off the couch or whatever. I understand that can happen, and I do think that studies show that the longer it goes, the harder it is, right? So I did find though that once I got up and started moving around a little bit, that it got better. But what I think he's suggesting here is before it gets to depression, don't stop. Don't stop. Keep go. Just keep. Don't be sitting around dwelling on whatever it is that's causing these issues. And I understand that there can be an imbalance component in the in brain chemistry and all of that too. But so this perseverance, this is just the idea that I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm going forward, right? But one of the issues with it is, and here's the next thing it says. It says the next thing is self-denial. One of the issues with saying I'm just doing it, I'm going to be strong and I'm going to move forward. That also sets us up for a bout with self-centeredness that says that we carry the weight of the world, we're responsible, we have to do it, when really we need to be looking for help from our teammates. We really need to be looking for help from those around us. And so this self-denial, when he first said this self-denial, what he was probably alluding to mostly when he said self-denial was the denial of our whims, the denial of, our immediate pleasure, postponing reward, the small reward right in this moment for a greater reward later was, and I think that is a fine principle to have. But I like going a little bit further with the self denial. Is self denial saying I am not a separate self? And if I get that in my mind, then that also keeps me from pursuing all the selfish things, besides the fact that it gives me comfort knowing that I'm part of something larger than myself. So then he says hard work. Yeah, there's work, there's stuff to be done. And here, this is something that will come up in the lessons for the week that I put out there, is that uh, I used to tell people when we had the phone company, I would say, and I didn't make it up. I mean, you work smarter, not harder, but there's a certain level of effort that has to be put in. I mean, you can't just, in other words, you can't just think about it. Some action has to take place, and it needs to be, in business, it needs to be smart action, but in all endeavors in life, it needs to be an action that goes along with what the meditation was about, an action that leads to common welfare. Whatever hard work I'm doing, it should be a benefit to others, ultimately a benefit to everybody. Uh, I mean, I've worked hard many times during my life, just worked hard for what I was actually consciously aware of was my own benefit, what I considered to be my own personal benefit. So this what the meditation was talking about at the beginning was waking up to the fact that that's never going to be enough. But that if I can just bring in this idea of there's other people involved. I'm not on my own. I'm part of something. If I get this idea in my mind, then many times I could be taking the same actions that I was taking before, and everything seems different. Everything feels different, and I believe outcomes are better. So he says sacrifice, and in this regard, sacrifice would be the idea of personal personal well-being. Uh, I always have talked for many years about this idea that if we think about the stuff we do in life as a sacrifice, that just leads to resentment and expectation and and disappointment, because now there it just if you think about the literal meaning of this sacrifice is something living stretched out on a pyre, uh, killed and burnt, right? This is not a good image. So, and this was the thinking when all this whole idea of sacrifice came about in ancient times. Was the thinking was the reason that things are going wrong is because the gods are angry, and so instead of all of us suffering, let's sacrifice something else, sometimes somebody else, and then the gods will be appeased and it'll rain or whatever, right? It'll rain. The crops will grow in correctly, and and uh, uh, and we still have the mentality today. We don't think about it the same. We don't stab anybody on an altar. We just send them to war in our name. Same, because we want to appease the circumstances, right? We want to make sure we protect our interests. Now, I'm not saying it's not, we could get into a long debate about whether any war is justified, but I'm going to say that I know for sure that there are ways out of them once we're in it. So anyway, sacrifice. I would like to think about sacrifice as being a conscious investment, a gift freely given. So I'm going to give of myself freely without expectation. So when I work extra hours, rather than me thinking that what I'm doing is I'm sacrificing my time for my kids or my wife or whatever, I need to change my thinking. I need to change it around to I am giving this freely because I know that it is going to be a benefit to us all, right? And then this is the key. If my working extra hours isn't really a benefit, let's say that the benefit is only some money coming in, right? I may want to think about it a little bit more. Maybe the benefit would be for me not to work the extra hours and go home. I mean, sometimes things are necessary. I mean, you got to have a certain amount of money to do things. But a lot of times it's the thought of lack, and what we're trying to do is pile up extra money. And somebody said there's no such thing as extra money. I could use all of that money. Dedication. Dedication. This idea of dedication, being dedicated to something that it's important to us, so we feel it in our hearts. That it's like a sense of mission that we not just a responsibility, but a heartfelt endeavor that we we align with ourselves and our purpose. And then it says respect for authority. And of course, he was talking about respect for me. I mean, in that present position that he was in, he was talking about I am the authority, and you listen and you do that which I tell you to do. And um, and of course, there was success for those. So here's what I'm going to say about that, because sometimes in life we need to recognize uh, it. I mean, it's actually true that other people know more than we do about certain stuff. We should just accept that fact that that's the case, right? And so in that area, they would be an authority that we would respect because but this is difficult because many times, I mean, we actually know it. We actually know it consciously that the person does know more than we do about this particular thing. And we still want to act like we should do what we want to do instead of what they're suggesting, right? Because somehow our deal is going to be different. Our thing is going to, it's not that apply, that could apply to everybody else, but not to me. And so this respect for authority in that regard would not be putting the person on a pedestal. It wouldn't be like saying that they were, godly or something. It would just say that in this area they know more. So let me, by giving my respect, let me be open-minded to what they're saying, so that I can then put those things into effect again for the common welfare. Uh, but if we're talking about on a larger scale here, this respect for authority would be what our second tradition in the recovery program says is this ultimate authority. But this ultimate authority would be, well, what it says, what the tradition says is a loving God as he expresses through our group conscience. So and now this is a concept that is almost never used to the fullest. I was going to say correctly, but that was going to be kind of arrogant if I said that. But that's not what I was thinking. But to its fullest extent, most of the time, and this goes okay. So you can think about this as a democratic kind of mechanism where when we have a decision to make,